It has been a great 2023. And to top it off, I want to say thank you to Andrew from the Fort Worth Roots podcast. Thank you for having me on. I enjoyed the conversation, and I hope you, the listener, enjoy it as well. Here it is.
This morning we got ghosts in the circuit boards. Every once in a while it just plays one of its own sound effects.
Yeah.
So I'd like to call everybody's attention to Exhibit A here. This has been proudly displayed right here in the big room once we got this thing kind of situated.
Yep.
This was an award given to us by TheFailed podcast, and we have the owner, the proprietor, the CEO and president of TheFailed podcast here with us today, Mr. Sam Esquivel. How you doing today, brother?
Man, I'm doing good. Thank you for having me, Andrew. Now, look, I'm going to have to do this on the air. It might be funny. Say Esquivel.
Esquivel.
Yeah, you've been saying Esquivel.
Ball.
Yeah. Which is fine because I was like, oh, this sounds a little fancy. But it's Esquivel. No hate.
You can't just class it up. You ever seen Joe Dirt?
Joe Dirte?
Tried to put an E at the end.
But no.
Correct me on that. Thank you.
Good,
it's a fear of mine getting people's name wrong. And I think even after I hear it said properly a few times, I still like second guess myself.
Yeah, Esquivel.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
I've got it on a recording now. It's on the Fort Worth Roots podcast, so now I have no excuse.
Nah, man, but I appreciate you. Trust me, man. Like, it's all good. You can call me whatever you want, man.
I call you friend.
We've established a great friendship,
I call you brother.
Yeah, man. It's been good. It's been a few years now that we've gotten to know each other, and it's been good. I have nothing but good things to say. You've been solid towards me. You know what I mean?
Well, you try to hold on to the friends that really show up for you too, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
I think that's important.
You've done a great job of being in my corner since we met. When did we meet? How did we meet?
I don't know. I would have to look back at my log, like in my log for my pod, because it's on there. When the first days when we had like the Jimmy Fallon set up in my studio. It was so weird. When you did, and then after that I changed it because it was.
You're constantly changing your studio.
Yeah. Always upgrading. Like if I have a little extra money, I'm like, I change this, get rid of that, change this, get rid of that. Yeah. Just because I want to make it. I just want to always evolve so you can see the progression of the pod, and you're like, man, that was when he had that thing. Now he that, and so it's it's a timestamp.
Well, it always looks great. It always looks even in the early days. But yeah, the reason I don't really remember us ever meeting is because you've just been such a permanent fixture in my life for so long now.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to when you do business, like you meet people that are just business, and then but you have to jump over that threshold where they become friends, and you have to have conversations that are outside of just business. And I think we've done that, and so I think that's why it all just goes together.
Well, the thing that's different about our relationship than some of the other contacts I've got inside the podcast world or the Fort Worth arena, you and I will just get together and have lunch.
Yeah.
We haven't done that in a couple months, but we've been pretty good about keeping up with each other, even if we're not going to do anything podcast related.
Just checking in, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
don't know. It's a lot to be said about support. Like, it's an easy thing to say, hey, I'm supportive. I'm a supportive person. And at the end of the day, you really have to see the people around you who can attest to that. That's the real proof. And like if someone asks, is Andrew supportive of the Failed podcast? The answer is yes. Yeah. Because I've seen it.
I believe people whenever they say, I support small business, or I support local, or I show out for my friends when they put on a show or something like that.
Yeah.
They want to be that person, but life gets in the way. Things happen.
You know what? It's crazy because if you think of the music scene in Fort Worth, they've been at it forever. They have community, they have relationships, they have people that have been in the game for 20 plus years, whether they own venues or bars or whatever. So they kind of have been working at it for a while. And just thinking about it right now, the pod thing is so new that we're trying to establish what our support as a community looks, because everyone's thinking pod worldwide. And that's true, but it's only for a select few that make it and catch that big wave, and go to and just go to other levels. But locally, I think we're so like in our infancy, we don't know how to necessarily behave as a community, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just a fresh thought.
You might be right. I see what you're saying. The music community is more established, and podcast community is kind of a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Like we can
it
learn
doesn't have
something
those
from
roots.
them.
Yeah.
We really could.
Well, I think what we have to do is we have to be able to operate in both stances. You know, we have to be able to operate solo and get things done on our own.
Yeah.
And we also have to refine the process of working together as a group.
Do you feel the, like, and I know I'm not saying loneliness like in a negative way, but the solitary aspect of podcasting, how do you deal with it? Is it something that you feel is part of podcasting?
Yeah, so here was my solution for it. I started setting up this big old space, and I'm just inviting everybody to come out and be creative with me. And
Yeah.
I've got one band that comes here and practices on Sundays. Outside of that, we're not really using this space for much. But I absolutely feel the solitude of being a creator and working on this stuff nonstop. I'm putting 20 to 40 hours extra a week into this through the TikTok lives, the going to events. I mean, I love going to live shows. I love going to different events, but I wouldn't go to nearly as many of these shows and events if it was not for the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I do it because I want to support my community. I want them to, like we just talked about, I want them to see me out there supporting them, so they know that I practice what I preach. We're on this show every week telling people, I stopped preaching to individuals, telling them to go out to these shows. Now I say, look, you guys, you already support the live local scene. Bring friends, bring family, bring neighbors. Yeah. And if I'm going to be preaching that message, I need to get out and I need to make sure that people see me out there, because it's not fair for me to.
And that's part of your thing. You're so like tied in with so many creatives and people that do music and stuff, and luckily for me, that's not what my show's about. So I'm not out there. The term is like outside. Like I'm just not outside. That's just not the time I am in my life. I'm a social butterfly, but it's different circles. Like it's not the same circles that you move in. I show up to some of the pod events, and it's like another country for me whenever I show up. Yeah. But
and I know that you feel that way because we've talked about it. The first time that we went to an event together was the PBR. I can't remember what it were, but it was put on as kind of a local podcast meetup thing. Yeah. And I scooped you up and brought you with me. Yep. And we showed up at different times. Well, I needed you there too because I didn't know any of these people.
Yeah, I was like, I'm with Andrew, so I'm fine. I'm gonna be fine. And then now, we were both pretty fresh into like getting into the mix.
Yeah, but I still kind of seeing how you took it all in and the way your personality is. You behave the way that I feel when I'm in a social environment. I feel like kind of. I don't want to put this in a bad light and make you sound weird or something, but I always feel like the weird guy whenever I'm in a room like that, Yeah. And I can see it on your face sometimes whenever you walk into an environment like that where you don't know anybody. So when I see you walk into the room, I try to beeline it over there to you to be like, hey man, what's up? How's it going?
I'm on a mission.
Sure.
Like if I'm going for you and we have 2-3 minute conversation, I'm in and I'm out. And it's hard. Yeah. I guess I'm the weird dude. Like people misinterpret it as like, like I could be a little rude.
That's why I almost didn't say that because I didn't want you to take it the wrong way.
Yeah.
You're not the weird guy, but you walk into a room and you feel out of place. That's what I can see it on your face. Mm-hmm. I know what it looks like because I feel it all the time.
And that's why I move in a lot of circles, but it's all very intentional. Like I'm not showing up looking for something to happen. I'm going because something is happening. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I move. But it's funny because with all of the 100th episodes that a few other pods that are in the circle that we know hit, and then you had a few events, like I've been out. Mm-hmm. A little bit. And I remember starting let's meet this new community. Let's meet these new guys. And then now, like I have this huge list of people that I know. Mm-hmm. And there you go.
Well, you're one of the people that makes it out to events too. I mean, I see you out all the time and you do a really good job of supporting everybody, not just your homie Andrew. So I know that people see that and they appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's getting a little bit weird out there. I'm not as panicky about it as I was like a month ago because I've been given some information that is not necessarily open to the public and that I have no business having access to. But it's not as bad as it looked.
Should I buy toilet paper and water?
No.
Oh,
what
okay,
I'm talking about is our local scene. We had venues closing down left and right, and it was getting really weird. You know, we lost the Cowtown Theater, downtown Cowtown at the ISIS Theater. Stupid long name. Anyway,
it came and went.
Well, it was a really long process. It was a long fall.
Man.
But from the moment they opened their doors, they were closing their doors. But it took them years to get that thing revitalized. But anyway, so we lost that one. We lost Twilight. We lost Mass. We lost Lola's.
Wow.
We lost all these great venues in a very short amount of time. Yeah. And there's more that I'm not listing. And sorry, folks, I just don't have that on the top of my head. But they're just closing down left and right. And you're looking at this and you're going, shit, what's happening? It looked really scary. But some of them, and I'm not going to name which ones, you could look at their financial records and go, okay, it's not because they weren't making money. So what really happened? Yeah. What's happening a lot is that these property developers are coming in and going, oh man, you're out there getting beat up pretty bad, huh? Not making the kind of money you thought you were when you opened the doors.
Yep.
How about I take that off your plate? Here's a check. Yep. I'll take this problem off your hands, and you just walk away. Yeah. And a lot of businesses are doing that. Like, you know what? Yeah. Okay.
A good exit is very appealing.
Well, and it's always hard to lose your thing. You know, I had a business and I had to shut that down, and I still kind of feel the burn from that. So
it's a transition, okay? And so, like, for instance, like in the hip hop culture, okay, and it's a young culture, 50 years. Don't mind that, guys, if you heard it. It's just the board acting. Behave. Probably. You behave. Anyways, so they're having to transition and become older men who aren't outside doing everything they were doing when they were young. So their transition is so difficult for them that a lot of them are tapping into new things. Mm-hmm. And that's why you hear, oh, we're business people now. We're doing this, we're doing that. But it's because they have to. If not, they're going to lose their complete identity. And then a lot of them are becoming podcasters and stuff. And so and during these transitions, there's always opportunity. It's just, do you have it in you? Yeah. Or you just want to quit?
Got to pivot.
Yeah. It'd be funny if every time we say pivot, it does pivot. There we go.
Folks, we are taking donations. We need new equipment here at the Fort Worth Roots Podcast. Any gifts are highly appreciated, and we'll go to the show.
We're stepping into the scary part of the
podcast. This thing has been an absolute champ. All the equipment, the laptop, the Rodecaster, the headsets, it's all 3.5 years old, and it has been with me through, like, I'm not kidding, Sam. I'd have to sit here and really think about it, but at least 8 times I've moved in the last 3 years.
Got it. Yeah, you're tossing it around.
Oh yeah. So, and I mean, events. It's outdoors. It's
You've used it. Mine's still really new.
There's probably a couple spiders that crawled in there into the sliders. And
I put mine in the studio and it hasn't moved. It just lives there. You know what I mean? I have other equipment for moving around, so I keep it simple, man. But no, it's been good, man. Where we want to take this, guys, so y'all know, me and Andrew, we just flow, man. We just do this thing. And so what do we do next? What do we want to give the listeners? It's been a crazy 2023.
Well, I want to pop into samesq. Say it again.
Esquivel.
I've known this dude for 5 years. Esquivel.
That's all good.
All right. Tell us about Sam Esquivel and what's going on with the Failed podcast, starting probably mid-year this year and moving forward into 2024. What do you see kind of progression-wise?
I mean, it's been a great year. I've had great interviews.
What's one that stands out to you? Now, all your interviews are obviously important to you, but what's one that really stands out to you this year?
Well, I had Sandra McLaughlin on.
And who is
this? This is a lady from Fort Worth, business owner, CEO, mogul. She's done a lot of big things. And my dad worked for the McLaughlin family for a long time. So I grew up knowing them, and then they had kids that were my age and my brother's age, and all of a sudden I'm older, like you know what I mean, like I'm a grown person and I have a
Yeah.
pod. So I asked her if she would come on, but I had no like I couldn't apply what I applied to all my interviews with that one because there was just so much tied in between our families emotionally, the stuff we've been through, just tons of stuff. And she accepted and she came on. And I felt like a kid, like in there talking to her, almost not feeling like I had permission to talk to her. I
Right.
felt like a little kid, you know what I mean? Like respect your elders. And, but she was really open and it was very insightful. She talked about a few things about my parents. She talked about a few struggles that the company had that obviously as a company and the families involved, we kind of knew about it. We went through it. And it was great.
And what did their company specialize in?
Well, the commercial roofing.
Okay.
Yeah. They do other stuff now, but it's one of the biggest roofing companies in the South.
Okay.
West, and then down into Mexico. It's huge. And my dad's been there for a long time.
These last few years, it's been really tough. New legislation's come out that's restricted the business practices for roofers and things like that. But it's been rough. I picked up a job.
We're gonna talk about roofing.
Well, I was gonna.
I'm joking because he does this all the time. He's just someone can say something about something, and you'd be like, yeah, have you heard about?
We're not going to talk about roofing now.
No,
definitely not.
Let's move on. And so I'm not trying. I'm being funny. And so, but I had her on, and it was crazy for mentally, psychologically for me. It was interesting to talk to her, and to feel like I even could, right? As if I was worthy. And so I've put in a lot of hours communicating and helping people share their stories that it's like, like a golfer or a football player, they do the same thing over and over. At some point you say, I'm just good because I do it all the time.
Yeah.
I kind of lost that. When you see the quarterback throw a bad pass or the golfer hit the bad golf ball because something just is off. So I felt a little more nervous than normal.
Okay.
I felt a little more emotional in the conversation. Yeah.
So it's more memorable because it was with somebody you care about and have history with, and you feel like maybe you didn't do a great job in that recording.
I think it was a great interview.
Okay.
I think I left. I think I think the audience, there's a lot of takeaways for people, but I was a bit selfish in it. But I'm aware I was going into it that way. It was for me.
Yeah.
And I think but sometimes that makes for a great interview when you do make it for yourself, because we're very much human, and a lot of things that we want for us, other people want for themselves. And so, I don't know, just.
You going to have it back on? Give it another go?
It might just be a one-off.
Yeah.
I don't know where we would go. If there was so the second interview for me is not a thing. With you, me and you have collabed 2-3 times.
I love having a repeat guest.
Yeah, which is fine. But for me, it doesn't work because I'm like helping people share their story. And then after that, I'm kind of getting into their personal beliefs and what they're doing now. And so I'm not.
What about your hip hop friends? You got a hip hop podcast group that comes on.
Yeah. The TNT podcast.
Yeah,
Okay.
They're on pretty regularly.
Like. But see, so I have a lot of branches on TheFailed. TheFailed podcast is very like strict in what that is, but I make other avenues to allow things like the TNT guys. I actually met them at that same event where you went. I talked to them there, and they were gonna go on a hiatus. They did it during COVID. They did Zoom, but they never tapped into it the way that I thought. But I just said, what are y'all doing? Let's work together. Let's talk. And then they're like, well, we're going to take a break. They went through some stuff. And I said, well, don't take a break because it's bad. You're going to quit. You're going to get too comfortable. You're going to lose your momentum. And so I created the collab series.
Okay.
For them.
Yeah.
And I said, because I just wanted to help them to keep moving. And then I was like, well, just let me be a part of it, right? Let's just share in our influence and stuff. But that's where those came from. And so they recently got back in the saddle. And now they're back on the TNT proper. And so the collab will do one every now and then, but they're back on. I kind of helped them get through that phase where they didn't want to do anything for personal reason. They had good reason, but I didn't want to let that happen. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so they're back on. They recently launched their We're Back episode, and there you go.
So moving into 2024, what's going to be different with the failed podcast? Or what are some goals you're trying? Because you were talking about goals this morning on a video I saw.
Yeah, man. So I have a few things. Obviously, the Failed podcast, I got a pretty good lineup for January. The type of people I'm going to interview is going to change.
Okay.
A lot. I'm going to be more strategic, more business, or not business owner type interviews, but more business savvy, or I'm going to have a more business approach to my interviews.
Change the scope a little bit.
Yeah, I'm going to be like, hey, here's what I'm doing. Do you want to come on? Like, let's schedule it. Let's make this happen. We're trading. You're not like, it's not like they're doing me a favor anymore.
Yeah.
I'm giving them something so they can put out into the internet world that's going to really spotlight them. And I realized through all these interviews and all this time that has value.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to give and you're going to give. Like, we have to have that mutual respect. It's not doing me a favor anymore. Like, I need people to show up that are eager to kind of give into the world, just give something positive. And so my lineup this year, I'm going to aim high, as far as who I have on.
Nice.
I'm going to stick to the Failed podcast is going to look very much the same. But I am we did do the Shut Your Mouth podcast. I did that with my wife and it got some pretty good legs and I had fun doing it. We want to do it again. My wife lost her dad, and so we put a pause, and then we said, for now, whenever you're ready, you're ready. And so we just, whatever. So it's there.
Yeah.
And I had fun, and so we might do that again. And then I was producing the Chit Chat Cafe, and I stepped away from that. Not me. It was 3 girls trying to put a show together. and you
were helping them.
I was helping as much as I could, but then I realized if they can't make it happen, I can't want something more than an individual. And that not only applies to them, not knocking on them, but I do come across a lot of creatives who want to do something. And I'm like, okay, well, show me your cards. I really need to know how far or how much more you want it. Than the advice that I'm about to give you. I cannot supersede what you want.
Which is important. And I hope there's somebody listening today that's been on the fence whether or not they're going to start a podcast.
Yeah.
That's something I always bring up. Anytime somebody comes at me with, I've been thinking about starting a podcast. I'm like, oh, really? Why?
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
That's the why.
And then, as soon as they, thought I'd start a really interesting, I've got this great idea. I've got a friend of mine and, man, we just have the best conversations. And so we're going to sit down and just record our conversations. And I'm thinking,
they're not that interesting,
bro.
Yeah.
I had to find a way to, just say it, just tell people like that's been done. That's been done a million times.
Yeah. There's a reason why you're having a private conversation. Like, it's really entertaining to y'all, but do it 50 times, do it 100 times for multiple hours at a time. It changes. Now, if you notice in personal conversations, you can repeat a lot of the same stories. Sure. Like, I don't know how many times my brother shares the same stories with me just because it brings up good feelings.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't translate on a podcast. Like, you have to constantly be learning, bring in new things, opening new ways of thinking, and it's difficult. It's not a natural gear for people to be able to pod just because they can have a great conversation over a steak or a cup of coffee or whatever.
And then what eventually will happen, you pour all this time, money, and energy into an endeavor, whether it's the chit chat or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at it 3.5 years later, and we were talking, we're not going to name drop, but we were talking about, there's another podcast in town that was telling you that they're just not really, they're going to have to rebrand, pivot something, because they're just over it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they've been doing for 3.5 years, just sitting back and telling fart jokes.
The truth is, you can see when people stagnate. Like, if you're a conversationalist, if you're listening because you are interested in learning and being entertained at the same time, you can tell. Like, there's big podcasts that are super, super famous where I'll get bored. Like, I'm like, okay, they need to do something new.
Yeah.
But so I do have 2 goals.
Okay. This is 2024 goals.
2024.
Let's go.
One of the main things that so storytelling is my thing. communication and storytelling. I believe that I'm gifted in helping people share their stories. Okay. That's what I do. And I've given a few classes to like small businesses, training, workshops and stuff. So I want to do that more. I want to do workshops for individuals to teach them how to, storytell.
Okay. Now, are you ready to launch on that? Because we were talking about that in 2023.
Yeah, no, then I wasn't, because I didn't realize what I needed to put my resume together as a podcaster. So now I have enough. Yeah, now I have enough hours that if someone needs to check me, it's there. I don't really need to sell myself.
Yeah.
I put in the work.
Yeah.
And so, but even back then I was already like doing some speaking and stuff like that. So it was already happening, but this time it's going to be more intentional. And so, and the other one is obviously just to speak to groups about storytelling and the powers of storytelling.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to tap into this year.
Looking forward to watching all that.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. It's one of the toughest things to do. If you look at your feed, like on Instagram or whatever, it'll be like speaking. You want to be a speaker. You want to be a speaker. Like, so everybody wants to be a speaker because it's this like idea of this, like, I get paid a lot of money for very little work. And then I get a lot of influence and a lot of pats on the back. And that's very true, but it's for a select few.
Yeah.
Like there's a high possibility that I'm going to fail at it. Right. But I'm going to aim. Yeah. But everybody wants it, but there's a reason why there's only a few people who get to do it.
I'll be honest with you, with your personality and your speaking style, I think that you would definitely be somebody that could pull down some speaking engagements.
Thank you for saying that.
Well, I mean it. I think you can do that. And you're very passionate about the things you talk about. You had a very interesting and special childhood with your dual language family and everything you went through with your mom, and I think that you're, like you said, you don't need to pitch it. Your story kind of tells itself, and I know you can do it.
So I'm writing a few things out right now, a few speeches. I want to write like 10 of them out, have them ready to go. I'm gonna have my podcast event hopefully this year.
Okay.
So I'm not celebrating 100. I think I hit 100 many places a few times in many ways. You know what I mean? As far as hours, episodes, videos, I've been there.
So it's not gotta have something to celebrate. Doesn't matter what it is.
So it's not a numbers thing, but I think it's gonna revolve around storytelling.
Okay.
That's what I think. And so let me hit you with this. This might not happen, but I'm going to hit you with it, okay? So you just tell me your thoughts.
Speak it into the universe.
Yeah, and so picture this, okay? Picture 10 individuals that don't speak English. Okay? They might be someone who cleans homes, someone who cuts yards, someone who cooks. Just Latinos, bro. The labor force of America. Okay. I got 10 of them that don't speak English, but they all have a story. And I'm sure they're all going to be interesting stories. So I want to help them share their story in Spanish.
Nice.
I'm going to interview them in Spanish and record the whole thing. And then I'm going to get it transcribed and translated. So then they're going to have the text and they're going to have someone saying it in their tone. If it's a lady, it'll be a lady, a guy, it's a guy, in English.
Nice.
And I'm going to give them a time frame. Now, I don't know this, and they're going to be listening and it's going to be like, Sam, this is very thought out. I mean, I really want to do this, but I also realize the difficulty in it.
Well, and I might be ignorant to the availability, but from what I've seen, there's not a whole lot of Americanized podcasting that tailors to the Hispanic community. I don't see it. I don't know that if it's there or not. There are some hybrid shows. We've got a couple here in Fort Worth. One of them, Osos Colosos, but I mean it's all in English. They're all. I believe they're all
Latinos,
bilingual,
but it's all English. Yeah. But here's the okay. Now let me follow me. You with me so far? Okay.
I think so.
So then I'm going to tell them, listen to your story. I don't care, 100, 200 times, and I'm going to see you in 4 months. And the goal is for them to be able to share their story in English, not only because they heard someone, but they also read it.
In 4 months.
Or around there. I mean, I have to throw numbers out because without numbers, you're not aiming at nothing. I don't believe in open-ended goals.
Sure.
Okay, so let's just say, put in the work. They'll all come back and then they can share their story in English.
Okay.
And I want to make an event around that.
I think that would be, I mean, that the captions what do you call that when you translate it to text?
A transcription.
The transcript is going to have to be dead on, but they could would be an excellent way to learn a different language is if you tell your story and then watch that come back at you in the language that you're trying to learn.
Yeah.
That would be an incredible way to learn.
So picture
a different
this.
language.
TED Talks is a huge inspiration to me. So I'm kind of taking from TED Talks.
Okay.
Now they come together and they invite their boss or managers or people that they've never been able to communicate except for work, lingo, and whatever. And they share their story. They bring their kids who think, my mom doesn't speak English, my dad. And they hear them share their story. And at the end, we do a Q&A, we do a panel, and that is it. That is something that I want to maybe do, but I have a lot of other things that I have to negotiate with. But yeah, that's one of them.
Yeah, you're a project guy like me.
Yeah, but that one would be ultimate. And so, awesome. Because I try to, obviously everything I do is like, there's a benefit to me.
Yeah.
I never want to act like, oh, it's just give out. No. But I do feel like that can draw people, and it can show the power of storytelling.
Yeah.
And say, you see, you feel more confident, you can communicate better, people know you better, and so on. So many things. Yeah. And there you go. That I would love to do that. And I have like a few more that are just as intriguing.
Well, let me know how we can help get that off the ground. I want to connect with the Fort Worth Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and see what we can do to plug into that. I was talking to a neighbor somewhere around here. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but we were talking about the Fort Worth Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and I said something crazy like, I want to have them on, but I don't speak Spanish. And he looked at me, he's like, bro, they all speak English. I was like, you know what? That was a really stupid thing to say. You're right. I just need to reach out to them.
Yeah.
But that's an entire, very large, very robust portion of the Fort Worth community that I'm not interacting with.
Yeah.
And it's when I think about that, I'm like, that's not okay. I need to get out there and I need to start connecting
For sure.
with more.
I mean, I would love to connect with them too. I would love to connect with them too. There's so many groups that I want to connect with.
Same. Yeah.
But I'm not, like I said in the beginning, it's just going to be a very different approach to how I have guests on my show.
Yeah.
Like I want the knocking of the door to be mutual. I want us to both be knocking on the door and it's slide open. There's no open towards you, open towards me. And maybe, what you're doing with the Fort Worth roots, you're going to experience the same thing. Yeah. That's just next level stuff, if I have to be honest.
Yeah.
Am I too serious on today's pod?
No, you're perfect. You know why he's so serious? Because it's 30 degrees in the studio. I don't know if you noticed us like rocking back and being fidgety. We're trying to stay alive. It was so cold in here.
It's cold. That's why I bought some hot tea.
I laced him up before he got here. I was like, bring a big jacket. It is freezing in the studio. But it's gotten better. It's gotten a little bit better. So for our friends that don't know, Sam's podcast, The Failed Podcast, that's the name of the show. Whenever you started this thing off, and I just want to confirm with your new scope and everything, when you started it off, it was all about getting people to talk about failure and how they either overcame it or the process that they're currently in trying to overcome these failures.
Yep.
But it's such an interesting lens to look at someone's life because we've all experienced failure, and if we haven't, we will, right? Hopefully we experience failure because every massive,
it's the greatest teacher in life,
innovation that we've ever had, every powerful person in history had massive failure, just crippling failure.
Yeah.
And so it's such a great way to look at other people's story. Is that still going to be incorporated into this new scope that you're pushing for in the show?
To me, that's just a natural reflex to talk about people's struggles and what they learned out of it. Because you get a moment to kind of say, let's be humble, but then let's brag about you a little bit.
Yeah.
Like everyone loves that. Like that formula just works with anyone. And so people who aren't conversationalists or great at talking on a microphone, if you take that approach, the what did you fail at, what did you learn? Dude, they can talk for longer than you want them to sometimes, but that just works. And so for me, I don't always need a professional communicator on the other end.
Oh yeah.
But I'm in essence coaching them live when I'm helping them tell their story. But I use the failures as bookmarks because they help us progress in life. and it moves a lot faster than if someone just shares memories.
Mm-hmm.
Memories would be just all kinds of mess and whatnot. No. Let's
Yeah.
hit they're not highlights, but they might as well be because they always produce valuable lessons. And so,
well, you tapped into a really systematic way to pull stories out of people that, like you said, are not professional speakers. And I've had people compliment me on this, and the first 24 times I heard it,
yeah.
I was like, "Oh, okay, you're just being nice. Thank you so much." But that's a gift that people don't have. It's not just a standard thing that comes with the human package, right?
Yeah.
You do have a great ability to take someone and pull an excellent recording out of them, even if they.
It's my favorite thing to do.
It is fun. I've had to get better at that, but
Yeah.
it is really interesting to take somebody that says, "Oh no, I could never do that.
Yeah.
I'm not really the kind of person that talks.
Yeah.
Like, let me take care of it, right?
Yeah,
I got you."
that's what I do. And that's the thing that people don't understand how hard that is. Like, it's easy to want to talk. Like, I'm a talker, bro. Like, trust me, if I wasn't interviewing someone, like, I have enough to say on this end. So one of the hardest things is to say, Sam, it doesn't matter. Can it add or move the individual's thought process or story along? Then I share it. Yeah. But it's never selfish. I'm never trying to highlight myself.
Yeah.
I'm very strategic on how I communicate with someone. And I figured the moment that I'm like right now, this is a rare occurrence for me, which I'm hoping to kind of level up this next year, is to be on other pods so that people can see like the how and why I do what I do. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because that's not my intention with the Failed podcast. Now, Shut Your Mouth or the coffee break stuff, that's more insight and thinking like that I, my thinking. But yeah, I'm good on both ends. But I really enjoy.
If you need a booking agent, maybe I could get you on some more shows.
Get me on more shows.
Now, there are some shows that I'm not going to steer you towards because you're above them. And in fact, you're above the Fort Worth Roots podcast. I can't believe
don't say that.
Right
Take
now.
that back.
You're a podcast royalty, sir. Thank you for being here.
You said too much, man. And see, that's the thing. Podcasting, even with you and what you do with the community and how you connect people, like I want podcasting to be on my resume, but it's not going to define me.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's helping people share their story.
Yeah.
That's what I want to define me because it just does so much for an individual. Yeah.
Well, you're so damn good at it. Let's talk a little bit about local establishments here in Fort Worth before we get out of here. Have you found a new hidden gem in Fort Worth that you like taking your family to this year? Whether it's food, play, entertainment.
Dude, I am a boring individual.
It's not true.
I do we go to the museum once a week.
Really? Once a week?
I try to stop by a museum once a week. And once a month, I at least take my daughter to a museum as exhibits rotate throughout. So for me, my highlight is seeing art. Like we took a picture by a mother well a few months ago. It was at the Modern. It's just life changing. I did a post of the seascape of this guy hanging on a rope.
I saw that.
Yeah. That was just that was just work on paper, someone drawing. And that really moves me. Like when it comes to creativity and art and that's what I see. My storytelling is for me, it's art. It's like I'm painting something. So I try to tap into the arts one way or the other.
Well, Kimbrel, we sent you an email. We want to come out there and do an interview with you guys.
With who?
Whoever will have us out there.
Yeah.
Kimbrel Art Museum, I sent them an email requesting that we get a chance to go out there and do it. Yeah. You and I had talked about this last time we did a recording because I'd like to incorporate that into what we do here at Fort Worth Roots.
Yeah, I want to tap into the 3 museums. Obviously, I'm tapped in.
There's Kimbrel, and then there's the science. Yeah. Which one's?
Well, not the science. Science is the science and history, so it's not like a fine art museum.
Right.
It's more like a learning and children's museum. So no hate, but I don't include them. It's just the Carter, and then the Kimball, and then the Modern. I mean the Fort Worth Modern. Yeah, those 3. Those are the 3.
Well, I'm about that childish science stuff, so I'm gonna be there too.
Yeah, I would love to collab with the art industry a little bit more. I do have a really famous artist coming up in January that I'm going to interview. And so she does these amazing pieces of art, and they're all around the world, all around the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
So she's gonna come on. So I'm gonna do the recording in her studio.
Very cool.
So it's gonna be cool. And then I got a few other artists and people that I want to tap into. But yeah, just so I mean, as a silly thing, if someone's watching, because I would love to do my event in one of the museums, like in one of the auditoriums.
That would be awesome.
That would be
the perfect setting for it too. I was going to ask you
Mhm.
when because I know you're like me in this. You're imagining this idea, and so when you were imagining that idea, I knew you had a place in mind, and that's it.
Yeah,
At
I
the
mean, I
museum,
would
that'd
love
be
to
so
do it
cool.
at the Modern. Like, they have a big enough auditorium. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Will Rogers is a little big, but yeah, but I'm aiming big, like
Nice.
not playing small. Now I might fail, but I also don't mind failing. You know what I mean? That's
Mm-hmm.
hence the failed podcast. So,
Yep.
so
All about it.
so get ready. That's all I'm saying. Get ready, Fort Worth, because it's coming.
Brother, I appreciate you so much.
You gonna wrap it up?
We're gonna wrap it up. Do you have anything else
I
you want to
do.
holler at these folks?
No,
Oh,
I don't plug myself, bro. I have a few questions for you. You're gonna have to allow me a few more minutes.
Are you gonna do the thing?
Yeah, in a minute.
I'm gonna move this right here just in case you do.
Look, guys, you got to follow Andrew at the Fort Worth Roots podcast. I know y'all think that we're controlling that, like he's just gonna bump it every time, but it literally works. And watch this. It's at 1075.
So you're setting that up for the people that are just listening to the audio. It's an Instagram counter. It's hooked up live to our Instagram.
I just followed you
followers
on one of my Instagram things,
and it will flip the little.
And then when it flips, we'll let you know. But it works, man. It happens.
This was a Christmas gift from. There it goes from Megan.
And that's me. That's my officially my number 1076.
You are 1076.
That's my number. So let me do this one. I'm gonna take my picture. That's me. Like, okay, dude. So here we go, man. This is for the previous year. I'm curious about a few personal things and maybe some podcast stuff. What were some major accomplishments or milestones that you achieved this year? And I'm talking pod. Yeah.
Okay. So immediately the first thing that came to mind, and there's no prioritizing here, but the first one was handling the market side of our big annual event. The year before, when we did the big 100th episode thing, I had somebody else manage the vendor market.
Got it.
I did it this year, and the reason I did that was so that we could pay the musicians that went on stage, because it's very important to me. If you're putting on an event or you're going to have somebody play at your business or something like that, you've got to pay these musicians. The year before, they were kind enough to do it for free. This year, not only did we raise a fairly substantial amount of money for the Cook Children's Hospital, but we were also able to pay every single musician that was on stage.
That's great.
And we did that by charging the vendors and then taking that money and then redistributing it to the artists. And it's the first year that we've had a charity involved with any of our events. And so those were some really big accomplishments. I always want these events to be bigger and better every single year. But this is the first time that, up to that point, I didn't feel like we had the legs under us to where it would even make sense to try to run a benefit for a charity or something like that. So that was really powerful. You're going to make me come up with 3?
No.
Okay.
That's fine. Did I say 3? No, just whatever.
Okay.
But here we go.
Let's put that at the top then.
What were some of the most valuable lessons that you learned from your successes, or here we go, just your failures or challenges?
Important lessons this year. I have to keep preaching this to myself all the time, and it's patience. We've got these very ambitious goals. We want to get to the top of the mountain today, and the goalpost sometimes keeps moving. The environment keeps changing. I mean, if we're being completely honest, we're here in 2023, and tomorrow's 2024. If we compared now to 2019, dude, it ain't the same world. Things are different. It's just a different environment. So patience, I think, is probably the number one thing that I've picked up on this year.
What positive changes or habits have you developed this year that you're going to take on next year?
I started off the year really strong with physical fitness. And as the year kind of marched on, I got really involved with a bunch of different projects, and physical fitness started to kind of fall to the wayside. And so negative and positive, I've seen how important it is, especially at my age now that I'm getting closer to 40. Those things really have an impact on me. So I'm going to buckle down and make sure that I prioritize my own health and physical fitness this year. And
That's good.
so kind of a positive and negative, but yeah.
So you can't support your friends or people you say that you believe in if you don't know their goals. You got to know what they're aiming for. What are, and I'm sure you have a lot just like me, but maybe one or two goals you have for the year coming.
I've got one. Okay, I've got two.
Go for it.
All right. So foremost in my mind, and something that I'm going to be working on very, very diligently for the next 3 months, is launching our first music series. Now, we've done little events here, little events there. This is going to be the thing that we keep going with. It's going to start in March. It's going to go through September, and we're going to do this every single year.
Love it.
And we're looking for some people that are going to help us out. Local businesses that want their name placard on all of our banners and taken with us to every single one of these events. We're going to take one musician this year. We're going to take one musician. We're going to put him at one venue in March, and then a different musician in a different venue in April, and so on and so forth until September. And then everybody that plays in that series is going to play on one stage for our big event.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the direction we want to start taking the show. We want to provide more opportunities for local musicians to get paid, because I told you we're big on that. But this is something that I'm really going to have to stay on top of, because
sounds cool.
It's monumental. For me, I'm one guy with limited brain power and bandwidth, so this is going to be a big deal for me. So that's goal one. Want to make sure that first year of doing this music series is going to be, by a few metrics, successful. Then the number two goal, and I'm going to write this down, and I'm going to put a box next to it with a check mark coming, right? Yeah. I want to be completely involved with the podcast only. I want to step away from my job and finally go back to work for myself before the end of 2024.
Like in the next few hours?
No.
Oh, 2024. I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah. Hey, George. Yeah. I accidentally set a goal a year ahead of myself. Anyway, I quit. Thank you so much.
Dude, I love it. I love it. So let me finish with this, man. Then I'll let you close it out. But flowers are given at funerals, and that's just too late. So flowers are best given when people are alive. And so, Andrew, thank you for being a good friend. Thank you for being a great communicator, putting together a great podcast, and bringing just a lot of. I've met so many people from you that I would have never met, and I've shown up to a few events. And the last one, the Christmas one, I showed up, and like 4 or 5 people said hi to me, and it was like it wasn't the first time, and so I didn't feel alone, and that has a lot to do with your character and personality, And so thank you, and I want to encourage you to just to keep doing what you're doing. Your creativity is being felt, and that in itself is something that a lot of people don't get to experience.
Yeah.
And so you're blessed like me in that, and so I just you got my support. I'm watching, I'm listening, and anytime I get a chance to show up and just show my support, I will. So thank you for being a good friend, and thank you for being a good podcaster. And I wish you the best for the next year coming up, and maybe we'll have a recap. Yeah. At the end of 2024.
It's hard to take compliments like that, but that's the most sincere thing that you could have said is that I've done something that has positively impacted your life, and I appreciate you telling me that. And that's awesome. I love that. But you've been just as valuable to me as a friend and as a collaborator and a friend again. So thank you, and thank you for showing up.
Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah. All right. Find the Failed podcast on.
I'll just search the Failed podcast. Link it up. He'll link it up. Aside from that, listen to Fort Worth Roots. And, if I'm good enough, people will listen and find me. So.
It's a great show. He tells the story of people's failure, or tells people's stories through the lens of failure, and it's a very unique and very powerful way to tell someone's story. So y'all make sure and check that out. It will be in the show notes for this episode, releasing tomorrow. Today's Sunday. 2024 is upon us.
Yeah.
All right. Thank y'all for listening. That's all for now. And we'll talk to you next week.
Peace.